about the Civil War, and I'm going to show you some events that happened in this date. Charles I, 19 November 1600, 30 January 1649, was monarch of the three kingdoms of England, Scotland, and Ireland from 27 March 1625 until his execution in 1649. Charles engaged in a struggle for power with the Parliament of England, attempting to obtain royal revenue which Parliament sought to curb his royal prerogative. Charles' reign was also characterized by religious conflict. His faithful to successfully and protest forces during the 30 Years' War, coupled with his marriage to a Roman Catholic, Henrietta Maria of France, generated deep mistrust among Calvinists. Charles IV allied himself with controversial ecclesiastics such as Richard Montague and William Laud, whose Charles appointed archbishops of Canterbury. Many of Charles' subjects felt he brought the Church of England too close to Roman Catholicism. His religion policies generated the antipathy of remorse groups such as the Puritans. Charles' last years were marked by the Civil War, in which he fought the forces of England and Scottish parliaments. He was defeated in the First Civil War 1642 to 1645, after which Parliament expected him to accept its demand for a constitutional monarchy. He instead remained defiant by attempting to force an alliance with Scotland and escaping to the Isle of Wight. This provoked the Second Civil War 1648 to 1649, and the second defeat for Charles, who was subsequently captured, tried, convicted, and executed for his treason.
The Levelers were a group of English reformers mainly active during the period from 1645 through 1649, who originated many of ideas that eventually became provision of the USA Constitution, especially the Bill of the Rights, inspired by the Petition of Rights of 1628 and led by John Limborne. The Levelers were a political movement during the English Civil War, which emphasized popular sovereignty, equality before the law, and religious tolerance. They came to prominence at the end of the First English Civil War and were most influential before the start of the Second Civil War. The Levelers were not a political party in the modern senses of the word. The Levelers, along with all other opposition groups, were marginalized by those in power and their influence waned. By 1650, they were no longer a serious threat to established order. They were also an important group of parliament side were the Levelers who presented a radical constitutional document which include a strict separation between the different branches of government, executive, legislature, and the judiciary. The Leveler movement began among London apprentices and artisans in about 1645, but it only became really important when the Leveler ideas spread in the new model army. There were many people who supported it. John Limburg, Richard Overton, William Baldwin, John Willman, Thomas Rainbow, Edward Sesbit. The Levelers were accused of wishing to institute communal ownership of property at level of ranks and estates. This was the origin of their name. However, the Levelers did wish to undermine the monopoly of political power held by the nobility and the gentry, and this certainly would have had significant social and economic effects. All the Leveler theories share certain basic principles. First, sovereignty of the people. Many parliamentarian theories argue that parliamentary was sovereignty. The Levelers insisted that Parliament was accountable to people as a whole. Second, individual natural right. The levelers often appellate to common law and to Magna Carta sustain their claims to the birthright of freeborn Englishmen.
The reign of the King Charles II is often called the Restoration, because when he was crowned, it was the restoration of the British monarchy that had been overthrown when his father, Charles I, was beheaded in 1649. From that time on, Oliver Cromwell had ruled as Lord Protector of England until his own death in 1658. Cromwell's son, Richard, tried to take his father's place, but after 8 months the people of England were fighting with each other. They were on the brink of the Civil War again. The Restoration Settlement was a series of laws written from 1660 to 1664 as part of repaying Charles II to come back and give him money for the royal lands that they were taking from his family. The new parliament was elected on 25 April 1660 and on 8 May 1660. Both houses made Charles II the new King of England and Ireland. He came back to England on 25 May 1616 and General Monk was the first person to greet him when he came ashore. But what seemed to be an end of the monarchy actually turned out to be only a pause. 11 years later, in 1616, Charles I's son, Charles II, assumed monarchy once again. The resurgence of monarchy was brought about by a series of historically significant incidents. One of the main leaders of the Republican government formed after Charles the first was Oliver Cromwell, who was by title the Lord Protector of England, Scotland and Ireland. He was also the commander of the armies that fought against Charles I in the English Civil Wars. All Ironsides, as he was referred to, violently brought England, Scotland and Ireland under a Union Republican rule after the execution of Charles I, and he was in fact one of the main persons responsible for his execution. Charles II issued what is known as the Declaration of Breda on April 4, 1660. This declaration was to lay down the fact that he was interested in accepting the crown of England, taking into consideration the various filed sides of power in England. The Parliament accepted the terms. On 8 May 1649, the Parliament accepted that Charles II had been the lawful monarch of England after the death of Charles I. Charles II returned from the Hague, where he was exiled, and assumed monarchy of England. This is what is known as the English Restoration.